The existence of immense, seemingly pointless suffering directly contradicts the definition of a God possessing infinite power and perfect goodness. This contradiction, formalized as the Epicurean Paradox, asserts that if God is omnipotent, God has the ability to eliminate evil. If God is omnibenevolent, God has the desire to eliminate evil. Since evil demonstrably persists, the classical conception of God as simultaneously all-powerful and all-loving is logically incoherent. This foundational challenge shifts the burden of proof onto theists to reconcile these incompatible attributes, forming the bedrock of philosophical atheism. The paradox demands an explanation for why a perfect creator permits horrors like natural disasters and childhood disease. Classical theism defines God using three essential properties: omnipotence, the ability to do anything logically possible; omniscience, knowing all past, present, and future facts; and omnibenevolence, being perfectly good and desiring the well-being of all creation. The paradox specifically targets the relationship between omnipotence and omnibenevolence when confronted by evil. Evil is categorized into moral evil, resulting from human actions like murder or theft, and natural evil, resulting from natural processes like earthquakes or disease. Both categories require explanation within a monotheistic framework. The severity of the problem increases with the intensity and scope of observed suffering. The paradox is often summarized by Lactantius, who quoted an earlier formulation: "Does God wish to prevent evil but cannot? Then God is impotent. Does God have the power but does not wish to? Then God is malevolent. Does God neither wish nor have the power? Then God is both impotent and malevolent and therefore not God. Does God both wish and have the power? Then why is there evil?" This structure presents a destructive dilemma, forcing the rejection of at least one premise: either God's attributes, the definition of evil, or the reality of evil itself. The logical force lies in the necessary incompatibility of the premises. The logical problem of evil argues that the existence of God and the existence of evil are logically incompatible, meaning they cannot both be true simultaneously. This is a deductive argument. The premises are God is omnipotent, God is omnibenevolent, and evil exists. The conclusion is that the premises are inconsistent. To solve this, the theist must demonstrate that there is no logical contradiction, usually by positing a morally sufficient reason for God allowing evil. If such a reason exists, the contradiction dissolves, even if humans cannot fully comprehend that reason. This approach seeks to prove the possibility of God and evil coexisting. The evidential problem of evil shifts the focus from logical impossibility to probability. It argues that while God and evil might be logically compatible, the sheer quantity and particularly the quality of observed suffering make God's existence highly improbable. This inductive argument focuses on gratuitous evil, suffering that appears utterly pointless and preventable, serving no greater good. Examples include the suffering of animals or the death of infants from painful diseases. If God exists, we would expect a world with less seemingly random, intense suffering. The existence of gratuitous evil strongly suggests the non-existence of a perfectly good, all-powerful being.
Theistic responses fall into two categories: defenses and theodicies. A defense attempts only to show that the existence of God and evil are logically compatible, usually by proposing a possible reason for evil, without asserting that the reason is true. A theodicy, conversely, attempts to provide an actual, plausible explanation for why God permits evil, aiming to justify God's actions. The defense addresses the logical problem, while the theodicy attempts to address the evidential problem by explaining the purpose behind specific instances of suffering. Both strategies aim to preserve the coherence of the classical definition of God. The most influential defense is the free will defense, championed by Alvin Plantinga. This defense argues that moral evil results from the free choices of rational creatures. A world containing creatures with genuine free will, even if they sometimes choose evil, is intrinsically more valuable than a world containing automatons who only do good. God cannot logically create free creatures who are simultaneously incapable of choosing evil. Therefore, God is justified in permitting moral evil as a necessary consequence of granting the greater good of free will. This defense successfully addresses the logical problem of moral evil. The Soul-Making Theodicy, associated with Irenaeus and developed by John Hick, addresses both moral and natural evil. This approach posits that the world is not a hedonistic paradise, but a challenging environment designed for spiritual growth. Suffering and hardship are necessary tools for developing virtues like courage, compassion, and resilience, transforming humans from the image of God into the likeness of God. Natural evil, such as pain and danger, provides the necessary friction and challenges required for genuine moral development. Without the possibility of suffering, moral choices would lack significance. Critics argue that while theodicies offer explanations, they fail to justify the sheer scale and distribution of suffering.
the free will defense does not adequately account for natural evil, such as tsunamis or genetic defects, which are not caused by human choice. Furthermore, the Soul-Making Theodicy struggles with the concept of disproportionate suffering, where the pain experienced far outweighs any conceivable spiritual benefit, especially in the case of premature death. The existence of intense, non-redemptive suffering remains the strongest empirical counterargument against the omnigod concept. The problem of evil serves as a powerful tool for non-theistic positions, moving the debate from faith claims to logical consistency and empirical observation. If theistic explanations fail to account for gratuitous evil, the simplest and most parsimonious conclusion is that the classical God does not exist. Atheism does not need to prove God's non-existence. It only needs to demonstrate the internal incoherence of the definition or the overwhelming improbability based on observed reality. The Epicurean paradox remains the definitive philosophical hurdle for any religion asserting a perfectly good and powerful creator.